Welcome back to the Be Code by Tiffany, the place where we redefine what it means to be bold, independent, tenacious, confident, and honest. Today's episode is about something that can feel impossible: forgiveness. And not the kind that dismisses pain or excuses what happened, but the kind that frees you from carrying what was never yours to begin with. This episode of the Be Code was brought to you by my upcoming book, How to Become a Bitch and Live Happily Ever After. In this book, I reclaim bitch as an acronym. It's not about attitude, it's about freedom. And inside, I take you deeper into each of these 5 pillars, expanding them into a full journey back to yourself. This book is my heart, my story, and the framework that has helped countless women transform their lives. It comes out this year, but you don't have to wait. I created a free Be Code starter guide just for you. 5 pillars, 5 practices, 1 powerful shift, so that you can start stepping into your bold, independent, tenacious, confident, and honest self, which just happens to be the best version of you. It's yours at blossomlifeco.com/Be Code starter guide. Download it today and start living your Be Code. So how does forgiveness fit into the Be Code? I'm going to break it down for you. B for bold. It takes boldness to face your pain, to open old wounds and decide to heal them instead of hiding from them. Forgiveness is a bold act of courage. I for independent. When you forgive, you detach your worth from someone else's choices. You no longer rely on an apology or validation to move forward. That's emotional independence. T for tenacious. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a process. You may have to forgive the same memory 100 times before it stops hurting. And that's okay. Tenacity keeps you committed to your peace. C for confident. True confidence is quiet. It comes from knowing who you are beyond the stories that others wrote for you. When you forgive, you take back that power, and you stop seeing yourself as the victim and start living as the victor. H for honest. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means being radically honest about your pain while choosing not to let it define you anymore. You can acknowledge the wound, and you can still choose healing. And that is the Be Code in action. When I was about 3 years old, my parents got divorced. And at that age, you don't understand the complexities between adults. You just know that someone left. For me, that someone was my dad. And as a little girl, I was so close to him, and I interpreted that absence as abandonment. I believed he didn't want to see me, that he didn't want to be a part of our family anymore, that somehow I wasn't worthy enough for him to make the effort. It's incredible how, as children, we turn the actions of adults into stories about our own self-worth. As I grew older, I began to see that my father had his own struggles, his own pain, and his own beliefs that actually shaped his decisions. My parents had their own issues, ones that I couldn't have understood then. But none of that stopped the little girl in me from feeling unwanted. And for years, that feeling lived deep down inside of me, showing up in my relationships, my fears, and even the way I loved. But forgiveness became the bridge back to myself. I want to remind you that forgiveness doesn't erase your story, but it does transform it, because it turns pain into purpose, and it turns heartbreak into human understanding, and it turns why me into thank you for showing me what I needed to heal. If you're holding on to resentment, anger, or sadness right now, ask yourself, what is this protecting me from feeling? Sometimes we hold on to the pain because it feels safer than vulnerability. But the moment you release it, you make space for something greater, which is peace, compassion, freedom, and love. So I'm going to guide you through an exercise right now. And obviously, if you can, close your eyes. But if you're driving or somewhere where you can't, keep your eyes open. But picture the person or the situation you're ready to forgive, even if it's yourself. And now silently say these words: I release you, not because what happened was okay, but because I deserve peace. I no longer need to carry this pain. I choose freedom. I choose love. I choose me. I want you to take a deep breath and imagine that pain leaving your body, replaced by light, the kind that feels like truth and softness and surrender. That's the energy of forgiveness. I started healing through writing, my journaling, my poetry, and even acting. There were moments on stage or on the screen that I would use my father as a substitute in emotional scenes. So I poured out my anger, frustration, and sadness, all the feelings that had been locked away for years. And those moments weren't just performances, they were emotional releases. They were how I started forgiving him and forgiving myself for holding on so tightly. Because that's the truth about forgiveness. It's not just about the other person, it's about reclaiming your peace, your energy, and your freedom. Even after finding peace through forgiveness, I didn't see my dad for probably over 40 years. And then one day, my oldest daughter, who had never met her grandpa, asked me if she could. She said, "Mom, I never got to meet my dad's parents because they had passed away before my daughter was born, but I'd love to meet your dad." It was her bravery, her curiosity, and her persistence that finally opened a door that I thought was closed forever. So my husband and my two daughters and I went to meet him in Montana, and it was so surreal. It's like time had passed, but somehow it felt like no time at all. He told me how much he loved me, how sorry he was. And even though I had already forgiven him, there was still a wall, I'm not going to lie. A quiet space where connection should have been. And calling him dad felt kind of foreign and unfamiliar. Not because I didn't mean it or that he wasn't my dad, but because the years had built a distance that words alone couldn't erase. And yet, I realized something so powerful that day. Forgiveness doesn't always restore what was lost, but it releases you from the pain of what was missing. Here are some key takeaways for today's episode. Forgiveness is not about excusing someone's behavior, but it is about freeing yourself from carrying the pain. Childhood wounds often become stories about our worth, even when they were never truly about us. Unhealed abandonment can quietly show up in relationships, fears, self-worth, and the way we love. And healing can happen through expression, journaling and poetry, creativity, conversation, and allowing emotions to move through the body instead of staying trapped inside. Forgiveness is not a one-time decision. It's a process that you may have to choose repeatedly. You do not need someone else's apology, validation, or accountability in order to heal and move forward. Forgiveness may not restore what was lost, but it can release the pain that is attached to what was missing. And true emotional freedom comes when you stop identifying as the victim of your story and begin reclaiming your power. Remember, the B code and forgiveness connection, please remember this. Bold is facing your pain instead of avoiding it. Independent is detaching your worth from others' choices. Tenacious is continuing the healing process even when it's hard. Confident is knowing your value beyond what happened to you. And honest is acknowledging the wound without letting it define you forever. Sometimes resentment protects us from vulnerability, but releasing it, it creates a space for peace, compassion, love, and freedom. Forgiveness transforms pain into purpose and heartbreak into wisdom. Our children, relationships, and life experiences can become unexpected teachers that guide us toward healing. It took my daughter asking to go see her grandpa because she had never met her grandfathers for me to experience this forgiveness. Forgiveness is ultimately an act of self-love. When you live by the B code, forgiveness becomes less about letting someone off the hook and more about letting yourself be free. I'm so grateful for the lessons my daughter gave me, because without her, I might never have had that full circle moment with my father before he passed away. Sometimes our children become our greatest teachers. I know both of my daughters have taught me so much. And sometimes forgiveness is the bridge that leads us back home to ourselves. Thank you for listening to today's podcast of The Be Code by Tiffany. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with another woman who's ready to release, rise, and reclaim her power. And remember, be bold enough to heal, independent enough to let go, tenacious enough to keep choosing peace, and confident enough to love again, and honest enough to feel it all. And I want you to know that you're not broken. You don't need fixie. What you need is remembering how to tap into your worth, your voice, your power. And that's what we're going to do here together, here on this podcast, because you are the heroine of your own story. I'm just here to remind you. So I hope you tune in and join me every other week to get your dose of truth, empowerment, and perhaps a gentle nudge to become the woman you were always meant to be.